Someone is trying very hard not to love you, and that is exactly why you can still feel them. Not because they said anything, not because they made a promise, but because some connections do not go quiet when people stay silent. They get louder inside. So before you scroll, slow down and listen carefully, because this is not about fantasy, and it is not about chasing shadows. This is about a bond that feels sacred, intense, and strangely unfinished. A bond that keeps returning to your mind when everything else should have moved on. You may have tried to explain it away. You may have told yourself it means nothing, but deep down, something in you already knows better. The person who keeps crossing your thoughts is not there by accident. And if this message is finding you at the exact moment you needed clarity, stay with me, because what this connection is really doing to both of you goes much deeper than love alone. There is someone who feels pulled toward you with a depth they do not fully understand. It is not light. It is not casual. It is not one of those feelings that rises fast and disappears just as quickly. This is slower than that, heavier than that, more private. They carry it in silence because saying it out loud would make it real, and reality would demand change. That is what makes this connection feel forbidden. Not a lack of feeling, but the weight of circumstances, timing, commitments, fear, old rules, roles they are still trying to play. From the outside, it may look like distance means uncertainty. It may even look like indifference. But sometimes distance is not created by too little feeling. Sometimes it is created by too much. Sometimes a person stays back because one honest step forward would change everything they built their life around. And that is the part most people never see. They think silence means nothing is happening. They think restraint means the bond is weak. But silence can also be the sound of someone fighting a battle inside themselves every single day. Keep listening, because once you understand that, their behavior starts making a different kind of sense. This person did not plan to feel this for you. It grew quietly. First you were simply someone they noticed, then someone they respected, then someone they remembered a little too often, then somehow you became the person they could not stop carrying in the back of their mind. It happened in pieces, and then all at once. That is why it unsettles them. Real feelings rarely arrive with warning. They slip in through small moments. A conversation that felt too easy, a look that lasted a second longer than it should have, the strange comfort of being understood without needing to explain every part of yourself. They did not expect you to matter this much, and now that you do, they cannot place you neatly into the life they were already living, so they try to control it. They replay old talks, then tell themselves to stop. They think of reaching out, then hold back. They imagine what being closer to you would feel like, and then they shut the door before the thought can fully open. Not because they do not care, because they care enough to fear the consequences. That is why the energy feels so uneven. The feeling is real, but the permission to live it is missing, and that creates pressure. What you are sensing is not random. It is the weight of unspoken emotion. Hidden feelings do not disappear just because they are denied. They move underneath everything. They sit in pauses. They live inside unfinished sentences, delayed messages, sudden distance, strange returns, and quiet moments when someone seems present without being physically near you. That is why this bond can feel so alive, even when nothing obvious is happening. Their outer life may still look controlled, calm, responsible, predictable, but internally there is a pull they cannot fully shut off. Desire, then restraint, hope, then fear, longing, then self-correction. It is exhausting. And if you have felt their energy at odd times, if they seem to enter your mind without warning, if your mood shifts with no clear reason, that may be why. Something between you remains unresolved. Something beneath the surface keeps moving. Stay with this part, because it matters. The connection is not being fed by fantasy alone. It is being fed by truth that has not yet found a place to live in daylight, and truth kept in the dark does not vanish. It waits, it deepens, it gathers force until something, somewhere, has to respond to it. That is why this bond does not behave like ordinary attraction. Ordinary attraction usually weakens when distance grows. It fades when life gets busy. It gives up when things become inconvenient. But this kind of connection works differently. It stays, quietly. It follows both of you into your routines, your responsibilities, your private hours. You can be focused on something else and suddenly feel them again without trying. They can go through full days looking composed and unaffected, while internally returning to the memory of how seen they felt with you. That is not because either of you is weak, It is because certain connections touch something deeper than preference. They awaken recognition. They make you aware of what emotional truth feels like, and once you have felt that clearly, it becomes hard to return to what is shallow, easy, or half alive. This is why the bond can feel both beautiful and difficult at the same time. It carries warmth, but it also exposes everything false. It does not just bring longing, it brings contrast. It makes old patterns feel empty. It makes ordinary interactions feel thinner than before. And once that starts happening, there is no simple way to go back to sleep. So if this is resonating, keep going, because the meaning of this connection is bigger than whether it becomes a relationship tomorrow. The deepest part of this bond may not be about possession at all. It may be about awakening. Some people enter your life to build a future with you. Others enter your life to wake something up inside you first. They become a mirror. They reflect the hidden parts of you that were waiting to come into light. And you do the same for them. You show them what honesty feels like. They show you what depth feels like. You reveal where they have been performing a life that no longer fits. They reveal where you have accepted less than your heart truly wants. This is why the connection can feel sacred. It is not only emotional, it is transformative. It reaches into identity. It starts shifting your standards, your values, your patience, your willingness to stay in shallow places just because they are familiar. You begin to notice that surface attention does not satisfy you the way it once did. Empty chemistry does not impress you. Mixed signals do not feel romantic anymore. You become more aware of presence, truth, and resonance, and that change matters. It means this bond is already doing part of its work, even if nothing is spoken. Even if both of you are still standing in an in-between space. Sometimes the connection is not late. Sometimes it is preparing both people to become capable of what they feel. Still, this does not mean you are meant to wait forever. It does not mean you should pause your life and build your world around possibility. It does not mean uncertainty is proof of destiny. That is important. Listen closely. A sacred connection can be real and still require boundaries. Deep feeling can be true and still ask you to choose yourself. You are not being called to suffer in order to prove that what you feel matters. You are being called to understand what this bond has revealed about your heart, your needs, and your worth. It is showing you the level of emotional truth you are capable of receiving. It is showing you what it feels like when someone touches your inner world in a way that cannot be faked. But it is also teaching you that real connection does not ask you to abandon yourself. It does not ask you to stay trapped in confusion. It does not ask you to live on scraps of hope. So if you needed this reminder, take it now. You can honor the connection without shrinking your life around it. You can feel the depth without losing your direction. And sometimes the strongest move is not chasing an answer. Sometimes it is becoming so grounded in yourself that truth has no choice but to reveal itself through action, not imagination. On their side, the pressure continues to build. They may still be trying to act normal. They may still be choosing routine over honesty, structure over emotion, certainty over risk. But inner conflict does not stay still forever. When someone keeps denying what they truly feel, the cost begins to show up in other areas of life. Restlessness, irritation, emotional distance from people they are supposed to be fully present with. A growing sense that something in their world no longer fits the way it used to. They may question relationships that once felt secure. They may feel strangely disconnected from roles they used to perform with ease. They may not even speak your name when this happens, but you become part of the silent standard inside them. You represent a version of truth they have not yet allowed themselves to live, and that is why your presence can feel both comforting and disruptive to them. You are not the cause of the fracture. You are the light that exposed it. You did not ruin their stability. You revealed where that stability was already built on compromise. That can feel threatening to someone who has spent years choosing what is acceptable over what is true. But that threat is not about danger. It is about awakening. And awakening always asks for responsibility. It asks a person to decide whether they are ready to live what they know. This is also why you may have experienced waves with them. Moments of closeness followed by sudden withdrawal. A strong sense of connection followed by silence. A feeling that they are right there with you, and then a sharp pullback that leaves you confused. That movement is not always manipulation. Sometimes it is the visible sign of an invisible war. One part of them moves toward the truth. Another part panics at what that truth could demand. So they come close, then retreat. They soften, then shut down. They feel everything, then try to lock it away before it changes their life too fast. If you have blamed yourself for that, do not. Then inconsistency is not proof that you imagined the bond. Often it is proof that the bond is real enough to frighten the part of them that still needs control. But here is where your clarity becomes powerful. You are learning to tell the difference between intense emotion and true alignment. You are learning that attraction alone is not enough. Presence matters, integrity matters, readiness matters. And this lesson is changing you in ways that will stay with you long after the confusion clears. So do not miss what is growing in you while you are focused on what is unresolved in them. That is the turning point. That is where your power starts returning. The more this connection matures inside you, the less you feel the need to force meaning out of every little sign. You stop trying to decode each pause, each glance, each silence, each delayed return. You stop building your peace around whether they move closer today or tomorrow. And once that shift begins, something important happens. The connection may still matter, but it no longer controls the whole room inside you. You become steadier, clearer, less willing to abandon your own center in order to understand someone else's hesitation. That does not make your feelings weaker, it makes them wiser. It means you are finally seeing that a deep bond should expand your truth, not trap you in confusion. Real love does not require you to become smaller. It does not require endless guessing. It does not reward self-betrayal. And when you understand that deeply, your energy changes. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for the depth of what you feel. You simply become more yourself. Ironically, that is often when the whole dynamic begins to shift. Not because you played a game, but because truth responds to truth. When you stop feeding fear with obsession, you create space for reality to show its real shape. And that shape always becomes visible through choices, not just emotion. If this connection is meant to become something fully lived, it will not open through pressure. It will open when honesty becomes stronger than fear. Not one dramatic night, not one emotional message, not one desperate attempt to force clarity. It will happen when both people can meet each other without hiding behind duty, confusion, ego, or half measures. Until then, the bond can remain active but unfinished. Alive in thought, alive in feeling, alive in those quiet moments when something inside you whispers that this story is not random. But unfinished does not mean meaningless. In fact, some of the most life-changing connections are the ones that first arrive as interruption, not completion. They break old patterns. They sharpen intuition. They make it impossible to keep settling for emotional absence. They prepare you for a level of truth you may not have been ready to live before. So even if the final outcome is not yet visible, the impact is already real. That matters. Do not underestimate what has already changed. Your inner compass is different now. What you accept is different now. What you notice is different now. What you notice is different now. And once that level of awareness wakes up, nothing in love ever feels exactly the same again. That is not a punishment. That is growth. That is the deeper gift hidden inside the ache. Maybe the timing feels cruel. Maybe you have asked yourself why something this strong would arrive when it cannot easily become simple, open and easy. But timing is not always an enemy. Sometimes timing is preparation. Sometimes two people enter each other's lives not to immediately build something together, but to transform separately first. Because without that inner work, even powerful love can collapse under old fear, unhealed wounds, and habits built on survival instead of truth. So right now, the real question may not be, will this happen? The real question may be, who are you becoming because of it? And on their side, the question may be whether they are willing to live honestly, even if honesty asks them to leave behind a version of life that no longer fits. On your side, the question may be whether you can honor your own value, even when longing tempts you to settle for less. That is why patience matters here, but not the kind of patience that puts your life on hold, not passive waiting, not silent suffering, a stronger patience, a grounded patience, the kind that keeps moving, keeps choosing, keeps growing, keeps trusting that what is real will reveal itself through time, action, and courage. Stay with this, because this is where the script changes. This is where longing stops being the center and self-respect takes its place. And once self-respect becomes your center, the connection starts teaching you something even more lasting. It teaches you how to stay fully yourself in the presence of deep feeling. That may be the lesson you were always meant to learn. You do not need to lose your peace in order to prove your heart is real. You do not need to accept confusion as evidence of depth. You do not need to make a home inside uncertainty. A meaningful bond should bring you closer to your truth, not farther from it. So as this awareness grows, you begin listening less to panic and more to what your deeper self already knows. You notice how calm you feel when you stop scanning for clues. You notice how grounded you feel when you bring your attention back to your own life, your own purpose, your own standards. That calm is not detachment, it is alignment. It means the bond is no longer only pulling emotion out of you, it is building discernment, strength, emotional maturity, the kind that can hold love without begging it to happen on your schedule. And that kind of inner power changes everything. It changes the way you love. It changes what you allow. It changes the kind of future you are available for. That is why even now, in the middle of uncertainty, something sacred is still taking shape, not just between you, but within you. Meanwhile, they cannot avoid themselves forever. People can delay conversations. They can hide in routine. They can throw themselves into work, responsibility, and familiar roles. But private truth keeps speaking in the quiet hours. It speaks when everything is still. It speaks when there is no noise left to drown it out. Eventually, the contrast between the life they are living and the life they feel inside becomes too loud to ignore. That does not always create immediate action, but it creates pressure. Cracks begin to show, not always in visible, dramatic ways, more often in subtle ones. A growing dissatisfaction, a loss of ease, a quiet grief for something unnamed, and in those moments, what they feel for you may become impossible to file away as a passing phase, because it was never just a passing phase. It was an encounter with truth, the kind that rearranges a person slowly, deeply, and often against their own plans. So if part of you has wondered whether they feel it too, understand this. People do not fight this hard against what means nothing. People do not keep returning inwardly to what has no power over them. The silence may continue for a while. The restraint may continue too. But silence and restraint are not always empty. Sometimes they are proof that something powerful is still alive under the surface, waiting for the moment when fear can no longer outrun it. So do not rush the ending. Do not force a conclusion onto something that is still unfolding. The urgency you feel does not always mean time is running out. Sometimes it simply means you are fully awake now. And being awake is not the same as needing to act immediately. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay present. Present with yourself. Present with the truth this connection has already shown you. Present with the life that is still asking to be lived right here, right now. The people who are truly meant to meet you in depth do not require you to chase them into existence. They are drawn toward the version of you that has stopped shrinking, stopped over-explaining, and stopped apologizing for feeling deeply. So let this bond reveal what it came to reveal. Let it teach what it came to teach. Let time expose whether it becomes a shared path or remains a sacred turning point. Either way, you are not leaving empty-handed. You are leaving changed, more honest, more awake, more protective of your peace, more aware of what real connection feels like. And once you know that, truly know it, nothing shallow will ever satisfy you in the same way again. If this found you for a reason, hold on to that clarity, not the fear, not the longing, the clarity, because that is the part that will guide you home,